So, let's get one thing straight. One man didn't just conquer the world, he completely redesigned it from the ground up. He took this broken, warring collection of tribes and, through this incredible mix of social engineering and pure military genius, he forged them into the single most terrifying and efficient weapon the planet had ever seen. And to really get how he did it, we first have to understand the world he had to completely shatter just to rebuild it. Just take a look at this. It says it all. Over on the left, that's the world he was born into. It was a complete mess. A bunch of warring clans where your bloodline was the only thing that mattered, and your neighbor was probably your enemy. But then, look at the right. That's the world he built. A single, unified nation where loyalty was to the state, power was earned through skill, and the goal? Well, the goal was nothing less than total conquest. The real question is, how on earth did he pull that off? Okay, so to really understand the architect, you've got to understand the broken world that forged him. See, this isn't just a story about conquering lands. At its heart, it's a story about pure survival. I want you to picture the Mongolian steppe in the 12th century. It was this violent, tangled web of rival groups. You had the Tatars, the Merkits, the Naimon, and they were all trapped in this endless cycle of raids and bloody revenge. Power was incredibly fragile. And loyalty? Well, loyalty was a currency that could be spent and forgotten overnight. This is the chaotic world that a young boy named Temujin was born into. And what's just absolutely wild about this timeline is how fast and how relentlessly his entire world just collapses. I mean, at just 9 years old, his father, a chieftain, gets poisoned, and that one act kicks off this horrible domino effect. His own clan, his own people, immediately abandon his family, basically leaving them to starve in the wilderness. By the time he's 14, he's a hunted fugitive, he's captured, he's enslaved. This wasn't just, a tough childhood. This was a brutal, first-hand education in just how broken a system built on flimsy loyalties really was. And this quote, this really hits home what he learned. So after Temujin and his brother actually killed their own half-brother over a single stolen fish, his mother, Holun, was absolutely furious. She could see that this dog-eat-dog survival of the fittest thing they were doing, it was just a death spiral. It would get them all killed. And that's when it clicked for Temujin. He realized the whole game, the entire system, was flawed. And the only way to win was to just completely break it. And that's exactly what he did. He became an architect of a new kind of society. He knew he couldn't win the old game of tribal backstabbing, so he didn't even try. He just demolished the whole thing and invented a new one from scratch. Now this is where you see his genius. He did something that was basically unthinkable. He shattered the ancient clans and tribes that had defined Mongol life for centuries. He took everyone. It didn't matter if you were a friend or a former enemy, and he just reorganized them into these new decimal-based units, groups of tens, hundreds, and thousands. Suddenly your old tribe meant nothing. Your only identity was as a soldier in his new Mongol nation. And to hold this brand new society together, he created something called the Great Yasa. This was a single, universal law code for everybody. And it wasn't just a list of rules, it was a complete rewiring of what loyalty even meant. Kinship, family ties, out the window. Allegiance to the Khan and the nation, that was everything now. And the punishments, they were incredibly severe. You could be put to death for lying, for being a coward in battle, or even for something as simple as not sharing your food with a comrade. But let's be clear, this new society wasn't just about creating peace and order at home. No, it was designed from the ground up with one and only one purpose in mind, to be the most effective war machine the world had ever seen. And here's the absolute game changer. Your family name meant nothing. Your skill meant everything. For the first time ever on the steppe, a common shepherd could rise up to become a general, but only if he was brilliant and brave enough. And this just unleashed this massive flood of talent that the old systems, the ones based on who your dad was, could never, ever compete with. And honestly, there is no better example of this than the story of Jebi. Get this, during a battle, an enemy archer shoots Temujin right in the neck. After the battle's won, Temujin finds the guy who almost killed him, and instead of executing him on the spot, which anyone else would have done, he praises his skill and he recruits him. That man became known as Jebi, the Arrow, and he went on to become one of the Khan's greatest generals. That, right there, is meritocracy in action. And that decimal system we talked about, it made for unbelievable organization on the battlefield. An order could flash down from the commander of a 10,000-man unit, a two-man, all the way down to a 10-man squad with just breathtaking speed and efficiency. It made the Mongol army more disciplined, more responsive than basically any other army on the planet at the time. And of course, they armed this new fighting force for total domination. Their composite bow was devastating. It could punch right through armor. Every single warrior had up to 6 horses, which meant they could cover an insane 65 miles in a single day. You see, they weren't just an army, they were more like a force of nature. So, the machine was built, it was tested, and now, it was time to unleash it. The conquest of the known world wasn't some kind of accident, it was the ultimate test, the final proof that his system worked. You have to understand, a huge part of this system wasn't just brute force, it was fear. Terror was a deliberate tool. They absolutely perfected psychological warfare, and they made it crystal clear to everyone that their arrival meant you had only 2 options. And this was the brutal, simple choice they offered every single city in their path, whether it was the great dynasties of China or the Khwarezmian Empire in Persia. They made sure that stories of the absolute annihilation that awaited those who resisted traveled far and wide. It was basically a strategy of conquest by reputation. The incredible discipline of his army allowed them to pull off some incredibly complex and ruthless tactics. I mean, they'd fake a retreat, a classic move, to lure well-organized armies out of their fortified cities and right into a deadly ambush. They used prisoners of war as human shields in their assaults. They would systematically destroy all the crops in the surrounding area to starve entire city populations into submission. This was total, calculated warfare. And the results, well, they were horrifying. Great centers of learning and culture, cities like Samarkand and Nishapur, were essentially wiped off the face of the earth. When they eventually took the city we now know as Beijing, the population dropped by more than 3/4. The sheer scale of the destruction was unlike anything the world had ever seen before. So what's the final legacy of this absolutely terrifying social and military experiment? Well, he didn't just conquer the world, he completely remade it in his own image. You know, the incredible thing is, the system he built didn't die when he did. It was so brutally effective that his sons and grandsons used that exact same blueprint to forge the largest contiguous land empire in all of human history. It stretched all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. And believe it or not, his legacy is literally written into our DNA. I mean, modern genetic studies estimate that something like 16 million men alive today are his direct descendants. Just think about that. It's a staggering testament to the sheer scale of his conquest. He didn't just redraw the map, he literally changed the human population. And that brings us to the final, haunting question. Was he an architect, a brilliant visionary who built a nation from chaos and rewarded talent over birthright, or was he an annihilator, a monster who unleashed almost unimaginable destruction on the world? The terrifying truth is, he was both.